Outrage as senior Lib Dem admits, of course MPs tell brazen lies. Sir Malcolm Bruce made the remark as he defended the actions of ex-Scottish Secretary Alistair Carmichael. Mr. Carmichael is facing calls to resign after admitting he backed the leak of a memo during the election campaign, incorrectly suggesting Nicola Sturgeon wanted David Cameron as Prime Minister. Speaking to the BBC Radio 4 Today programme, Sir Malcolm, a former deputy leader of his party, said, "If you're suggesting every MP who has never quite told the truth, or indeed told a brazen lie, including ministers, including cabinet ministers, including the Prime Minister, should resign, we'd clear out the Houses of Commons very fast, I would suggest." Asked if he was suggesting that lying in public life is widespread, Mr. Malcolm replied, "No, well, yes. I think the answer is lots of people have told lies, and you know that to be perfectly true." Wow, a politician telling the truth about MPs lying. What an oxymoron. Just who is outraged at this? Who exactly is outraged about this? I'll tell you why there's apparent outrage at this. It's because one, somebody who's been close to MPs for years is actually telling the truth and not lying. And two, this also conflicts with the perception that we have about our culture. We're British. We don't lie. We have a stiff upper lip and all that. We respect our MPs because they are honest. Of course MPs lie. Of course MPs are dishonest. Whoever is outraged by this needs to have a serious reality check, and I would suggest that you study Nick Clegg over the past 7 years to see just how often and just how deep MPs do in fact lie. Just about the only consistent thing in the House of Commons, apart from huge expensive claims of course, is that MPs are lying most of the time. But there's a similar scenario with FIFA. Wasn't it obvious that FIFA is as corrupt as the day is long? It wasn't difficult to work it out if you're paying attention. But the world has now gone mad about this FIFA corruption. Teams are now thinking about boycotting the World Cup in protest. Is it in protest? Or, as in the case with the England team, is it to save embarrassment? Are they using this as an excuse? But because everyone loves football and it's part of our culture, we're told there couldn't possibly have been any corruption in FIFA. The game is whiter than white, despite most thinking people knowing that the complete opposite was in fact the case. The outrage here is because it conflicts with the reality we are sold about football. But take the bankers. This is the same, but in reverse. This is why we don't protest the real parasites of our society, the banksters. With the banks, it's a case of, instead of there being no fraud and corruption, it's a case of there is so much fraud and corruption in our culture when it comes to banking that we don't know what to do. So we just accept it that that's the way things are. The banks steal billions through fraud, the banks steal billions through corruption, they pay a small fine and no one goes to jail. Because we now expect this from the banks, we don't protest it. It's been entwined in our culture. Banks, fraud. Banks, corruption. Banks, unwarranted large bonuses. Banking talent must stay in the country, despite being useless. It's the complete opposite of MPs lying and FIFA being corrupt. That's just the way things are. We need to wake up to the bleeding obvious if we're going to change anything in our society.